Hello everybody here and welcome to my official reaction to all the teams predicted from the start of the season and how they finished at the end of the season. And I'll be reacting to all those teams right here, right now on this video. Let's start things first on reacting to the Premier League table where I put them at the start of the season and where they all finished now at the last games of the season. We'll start from the bottom three, shall we? I have got Burnley and Wolves right to get relegated when I predicted them way back in August of last year. And I got those two teams perfectly right, but in the wrong positions because Wolves were bottom of the league, 2 places down, where I predicted them at the start of the campaign in 18th position. They came bottom of the league. Burnley, however, came 19th in the league. And these two teams went down very, very poorly this season. I felt that with Wolves, they had a managerial change within 11 games in the season. Lost back-to-back games under Victor Piera. And then Wolves appointed manager for Middlesbrough, Rob Edwards, to steady the ship a little bit around November time. He hasn't done much. I don't think he did, to be honest with you. I thought in November, I thought Wolves were down and out. I don't think Wolves would have been safe because the gap was quite high in terms where Nottingham Forest were currently at, where Wolves were currently at when Victor Piera was sat. So I expected Wolves to be down and out way back in November time. But he took over from Victor Piera. Good draw over Arsenal. They tried to stop us from winning the Premier League title. We were 2-0 up, we were 2-1 up, and then Wolves came back in the last minute of the game and got a draw over us. And that was the biggest games of our season to play against Wolves, to beat them and keep ourselves away from Man City in the Premier League table. And they could have probably let us capitulate from that day on February, but we kept ourselves really resilient from February all the way till the end of the season. We'll get to Arsenal a bit later, but talking about Wolves, however, they've drawn to Arsenal 2-2 in February. They beat Liverpool 2-1. I think since then, that form they've had a little bit around January and February time, it shifted a little bit away from them around March, April and May, and they couldn't get enough points in the bag, or not anything really, between March, April and May. And they came bottom of the league because of those reasons. And I thought personally Wolves did show a little bit of fight, but I think they left it too late as well. When I actually seen them during January and February, talk about those two results, especially by beating Liverpool and also drawing to Arsenal, and had a couple results during that times as well against other teams. But yeah, they left it too late and they came bottom of the league. But as for Burnley, however, they came 19th in the league, 1 place up they have. When I predicted them at the start of the season, I thought Burnley will get bottom of the league, but they came 19th in the league. And I didn't think Scott Parker had nothing about him really to keep Burnley afloat, because they might have got the experienced players like Kyle Walker in the team, James Ward-Prowse on loan from West Ham United. They had a couple of players they've had were okay players, might be a good fit for other teams in the Premier League. But I don't think that team gelled enough together. When you play from the Championship to the Premier League, it's a big different ball game. And I don't think Scott Parker had it about him to be a Premier League manager. He's always a manager who brings teams in the league, not keep them in the league. And that's what Burnley did during this season. And I couldn't say much about Burnley because all season they've been very poor. And they came 19th, a place above where I predicted them at the start of the season. So Burnley in 19th. But also with Brentford, however, what a remarkable season for Keith Andrews' team. I thought Brentford will struggle this season because they've lost Brian Abremo, they lost Wissa, they lost Norgard, they've lost their crucial players they've lost, and also Thomas Frank, the manager, who was all behind of Brentford's success in the last 4 years in the top flight of English football. I thought it might come to an end after losing a few players and sending them on. And I think that it was probably a bit too much for Brentford, maybe. And that's why I put Brentford in the relegation zone. I didn't really rely on Jordan Henderson's signing to go all the way and keep you in the league. But with Jordan Henderson, leader, 35 years of age, experienced player as well, have him as well with, up front with Danilo and also Thiago. Thiago has been a very good striker for Brentford, and that was really good for them to rely on him to score the goals when they need him. And Brentford were almost close enough to try and get European football, almost got Conference League football during this season. They could have got European football, but they only came one place below that in 9th place. Only 10 places above where I predicted them in 19th position. They came 9th in the league. Big reaction there about how I put Brentford at, because I thought Brentford will be down and out at the start of the season, but Brentford really done well to, but get the players believing again a lot more, getting the players to win good matches as well. And plus, you've got to understand that Brentford's, footballing setup, the data and they've got in their team, they're actually very, very good. And they're actually quite organised behind the scenes with the ownership they've got as well. He really makes Brentford quite organised. Even though Brentford lost all these players, but they were very organised to try and, just forget about what happened in the past and just trying to have the players they've got in their players in their team, the budget they've got, the transfer budget, and then the budget they've had as a club to put them into 19th position to 9th position was remarkably good. It was personally for Brentford. So yeah, big shock. I thought they're going to be out and relegated. I thought Brentford, but they proved me wrong, and they came 9th in the league at the end of the season. Now I'm reacting to the team who survived in 17th position away from the relegation zone, who I predicted to come 17th in the league. I put Leeds United in 17th position when I predicted them at the start of the season, but at the end of the season, Leeds came better than that, from 3 places up to 14th in the league. And what a great season for Daniel Farke's Leeds. And Leeds were promoted from the Championship last season into the Premier League. I thought Leeds they were okay around the start of the season. They picked up a little bit of draws and a little bit of wins, but then they started dipping a little bit around October time and November time. And then December, they turned things around, and Daniel Farke saw Leeds be unbeaten for a lot of games from December to January, especially beating Chelsea and Liverpool at Ellen Road was big results for Daniel Farke's side. And also as well, their striker up front as well, Dominic Calvert-Lewin. He's been a very good striker. They've signed him from Everton for a free transfer, and he's been remarkably good striker, and also a talisman for Leeds United as well. And that really helped them during their campaign, and also winning away from home, especially to Manchester United. Big win away from home there. They beat Wolves as well away from home. They had a couple good away victories. I never expected Leeds to be having a good away form this season. I thought their home form might help them, and that might be a fortress for them at home to keep them in the Premier League. But their away form this season was surprising for me, because I never thought Leeds will have enough results in the bag away from home to be where they are currently when they ended the season off in 14th place. But very good season for Leeds United, and they came 14th in the Premier League. Remarkable season. And I think Leeds now, they've got to invest a lot more in the summer transfer window to try and get enough stronger players into the following season. But you got to look at their team. They've been very good. And even a lot of fans predicted the Leeds will get relegated this season when they went straight back up to the Premier League. But I thought Leeds had enough form in them, like their home form. I thought there might be enough for them to stay up personally. But their away form was very surprising for me, and that's why they stayed up a bit higher than 17th position. So yeah, big boost for Leeds United in 14th position, and that's where they finished at the end of the season, in 14th place. Another remarkable season for Sunderland. I put Sunderland in 16th position at the start of the season. I thought why I think Sunderland will survive the drop, because Granit Xhaka, I know him when he was at Arsenal, very good midfielder, defensive holding midfielder, a good leader at Arsenal. When Arteta, in his early days as manager for Arsenal, he was a leader. He wasn't the best player, but he was a leader, at least a leader in the dressing room for Arsenal. And I feel that, when Unai Emery was manager, I thought Xhaka was rubbish. But then when Arteta took over, he was a good player for the last 4 seasons at Arsenal. And then he left in 2023, went to Leverkusen for a year. He won them the Bundesliga that season, went back to the Premier League and played for Sunderland, and he carried Sunderland on his shoulders. And Sunderland was 16th, I predicted them at the start of the season. But Sunderland came 7th in the league, and they've got Europa League football at the end of the season. Their home form's been good. I think they lost 3 home games all season, and their stats at home has been absolutely magnificent. I never expect Sunderland to be in the top 7 and qualify for European football. I thought they'd be safe. I think there'll be enough for them to be safe, because I think Xhaka might have helped them a lot more to be safe anyways from the drop. But they got a little bit better off where I put them in 16th position, and then Sunderland came up to 7th position in the league, and now they're playing Europa League football for next season. What a great achievement for Sunderland and their whole team as well, to go all the way and fight every team who plays at their home ground. Sunderland fight throughout their home games and also away from home as well. They've been really fighting to try and get enough points in the bag to survive. Also might even surprise teams, especially the Europa League as well. Really surprise a lot of fans in a way. And what a good season for Sunderland. Very good season for them. And they should be proud of themselves to be even above Newcastle as well. As a bit of a bonus for Sunderland to come above them in the league is massive. But yeah, good season for Sunderland. They came 7th in the Premier League for this campaign. And now the team I predicted in 15th position from the Premier League at the start of this campaign. I put West Ham to finish 15th in my prediction from my video I put out way back in August time. But West Ham, unfortunately, their 14-year stay in the Premier League came to an end, and they got relegated in the last game of the season as Spurs survived and West Ham went down. Talking about West Ham, they had a very poor start to the season though, losing to Sunderland, losing to Chelsea. Did beat Forest in the 3rd game of the season, and then Graham Potter's side did lose to way back to Palace 2-1 at home. Graham Potter was sacked as manager for West Ham. Nuno took over from Graham Potter way back in September, and in all that time he had to try and keep them in the league. And I thought at one point, West Ham might be safe because Tottenham were dropping down the table all of a sudden, and I thought maybe there's a chance that they might be safe from this, because West Ham's experiences in a relegation battle through the years has always been positive for them, because West Ham always survives every year. And not just talking about being in the top 10 or challenging for the Europa League or won the Conference League as well. They've even, every time when West Ham were in this position, they always somehow survive. And I think Nuno might be a good piece of a tool, he would have been, to keep West Ham in the league, because 2 wins straight. They beaten Newcastle 3-1 way back in November time. And even they beat Burnley 3-2. 2 straight wins in the trot. And then they had a little bit of poor patches around December time. But when they beat Tottenham 2-1, big win for them away from home for West Ham. They beaten Sunderland 3-1. And even they beat Burnley 2-0. And I thought for that moment they are climbing up the table suddenly, because Tottenham around January time, February time, were only 9 points clear from West Ham are in the Premiership table. And then Spurs lost back-to-back games, and then West Ham picked some form up, and then West Ham got very closer and even gone above them as well 1 point around April time when they beat Wolves. Was it 4-0? Was it 4-0 to West Ham against Wolves? Was a big result for the Hammers to be above Spurs in the relegation zone. And that was massive, to be in a safety position and be above Spurs within the next 3 or 4 games. And then when Spurs beaten Aston Villa, and then West Ham lost 3-0 to Brentford, and then the wheels fell off for West Ham United, and then they could not pick up any wins. Even Arsenal was a big crucial game for them to try and beat Arsenal, but Arsenal were in a title race with Man City at the time, and West Ham had to pick up a point over that game. Otherwise, there might be in massive trouble to go down. But in the last game of the season, they beat Leeds 3-0 at home, but that was not enough for West Ham United. and they got relegated. It all comes down to what happens now at the end of the season now. Will Gerald Bowen leave West Ham? He's been a player and a great servant to West Ham United now for like 5 years from now. Souček, midfielder. Will he stay at West Ham United now? He's getting old now. He's like 34, 35 years old. Will he stay at West Ham United? You've got all these players as well had a very good season for West Ham. Even Adama Traore, for example, as well. He left Fulham to join West Ham in the January transfer market. Will he stay at West Ham United? You've got all these players. Will they stay in the Championship? That's a big question, because West Ham's a massive club. Big club. Should not be in the Championship in the first place. But since Tottenham were lucky in the last 2 games and they got wins over Villa and even Everton, that was enough for them to be safe mathematically from the drop for Spurs. But for West Ham, though, wasn't enough for them at all, and they're now playing Championship football for next season, as West Ham came 18th this season's campaign. And the team who came 14th in the Premier League in my predictions at the start of the season, I put Palace in 14th place, but I was only wrong by 1 place down. I was very close on getting Palace right though, but the only reason why Palace did not get the exact position I thought they could have done, because they've lost back-to-back games ever since losing all the other games since Newcastle. They beat Newcastle 2-1 in April, and all the other matches since then, they've drawn 3 games and lost 3 games in the last 6 matches at the end of the season. I thought maybe Palace might have enough for them to come 14th, and that might be the position that I might have got perfectly right to put Palace in. But they came 15th, however, though. And also, you got to bear in mind, they've had a very good season, though, despite the Premier League, though, not being anywhere competing in that top 10 or anywhere after winning the FA Cup from last season. But they won the Conference League, the European Trophy, the Conference League. They've beaten Real Vallecano in that European final. And this will be Oliver Glasner's last season as manager for Palace, though, because he is leaving in the summer now. And I think it's due to the fact they've had a little bit of issues with transfers, and Glasner wants to push Palace into a top 7 team. Palace owners haven't got the financial muscle to give them the funds, and I think maybe there's a bit of a fallout between Glasner behind the scenes and also the chairman of Palace, and that's why I think he wanted to resign and leave on his own terms. But his own terms was pretty good for Oliver Glasner to actually win Palace their first ever European trophy in their first ever European competition in their club's history. And what a remarkable achievement for the South London side to do that, however. Despite them being very, not as great in the league, got knocked out in the FA Cup third round to Macclesfield, but in the Europa Conference League, they focused on that a lot more, and they got themselves their rewards and won themselves a European trophy. I can't complain about this prediction I reacted to at the end of the season, because I did put Palace in 14th place, but 15th was alright though. Still the exact same position, only 1 place down, and Palace came 15th officially at the end of this season. I put Nottingham Forest in 13th place in my predictions at the start of the season. They've had a very chaotic season. Despite Forest being safe, they came 16th, by the way, only 3 places down where I originally predicted them at the start of the season. I put Forest in 13th position, but they came 16th at the end of the campaign. 4 managers in 1 season, never heard of in any footballing season, having 4 coaches in 1 season. Nuno was a manager who did very remarkably well during the season before that, getting them into European football, into the Europa League. He actually managed 4 games in charge, 3 games in charge, for Forest. They beaten Brentford 3-1, they drew to Palace 1-1, they lost 3-0 to West Ham, and then Mari Aklas had a bit of a fallout. The fallout was happening also during the summer as well, and even the season before that, the owner had a little bit of a fallout with Nuno, in fact, and he was sacked as manager. Ange Postecoglou took over against Arsenal. They lost 3-0 that game, drawn to Burnley. lost to Sunderland, and even lost to Newcastle and lost to Chelsea. And then after that game, after Chelsea's game, he was sacked. And then Sean Dyche took over. I thought Dyche had a very good run as manager for Forest at the start of his managerial run at Forest, though. Defensive manager. He was at Burnley and Everton before Forest. He did very well by picking up a big win over Leeds. Even that 3-0 victory away from home to Liverpool was massive for Nottingham Forest, and even beating Wolves 1-0, and even beating Tottenham 3-0 as well. And then they've had a little bit of a poor patch of games. They were dropping down slightly near the relegation zone, and then he was sacked after Wolves game. They drew 0-0, and then Victor Piera took over against Liverpool. They lost 2 straight games in the trot under Victor Piera. The guy who was manager for Wolves was sacked in September. Very unpopular decision, I think, for Murray Atkins at the time to actually give Victor Piera the job. But he knows how to keep teams up, though, because what happened at Wolves last season, great run of results for Wolves to keep them safe from the relegation zone. And he did the exact same thing also to put Forest in his short spell in charge as manager for Forest from February all the way till May to keep them in the league. A famous win to Tottenham away from home was massive. I think that game over Spurs, they beat them 3-0 at their ground. I thought that was a turning point for Forest. And then I think from that, beating Burnley, beating Chelsea away from home, that was enough for Forest to be safe from the drop. And that was very good for Victor Piera, and even got Forest into the semi-finals of the Europa League. Was a great achievement for Victor Piera, and it was a great season at the end of the season for him. And even beating Sunderland dramatically, even away from home, like 5-0, was a big result for Forest though in this season. But yeah, good season for Forest though, and they deserve to be safe, I think, after that good run of form under Victor Piera at the end of the season. So yeah, I did put them in 13th position at the start of the season, but this season they came 16th, only 3 places down what I predicted them originally at the start of the campaign, due to the fact that they've got maybe European football to be distracted about as well, and also they've got that to prioritise on, and I think they've got enough as a squad, I think, as well, to keep themselves safe anyway. So that's why I put Forest to be safe anyways in 13th position, and I think I expect them to even be safer anyway, despite the 4 managers they've had all season. They had a great squad of players like Morgan Gibbs-White, you got Elliot Anderson as well, obviously Chris Wood came back from injury as well, Taiwo Awoniyi as well. They've got some very good players in the Forest team, and it was well deserved for them to be the team to be safe anyways from the drop. So Forest came 16th in this Premier League season. And now I predicted in 12th position at the start of the season. I put Fulham in 12th position, but they came 11th position. Only 1 place up from I actually put them at the start of the season. I thought it was a pretty good prediction. I actually knew that Fulham will be anywhere around 12th position, 11th position, or even 10th position in the league, because Fulham's a mid-table club for the last few seasons, and I never expected at the start of the campaign Fulham will be anyone special this season. I don't think they're going to be anything special anyways going into the campaign. They're going to be anywhere in a relegation zone or anywhere, challenging for European football. At one point this season, they had a big chance on climbing up towards the European place of the Europa League and also the Conference League at times. But I don't think Fulham had the squad, to be anywhere closer to qualify for European football. Because you've got teams like Bournemouth, you've got teams like Brighton, you've got teams like Brentford, you've got teams like Villa as well, Newcastle, Sunderland. You've got those teams as well challenging for the exact same thing. And I don't think they had that, that resources to go and challenge for a European place during the end of the season, though. And I do expect them to be anywhere between 12th position, 11th position, or even 10th position in the league. I put Fulham in 12th position, but they came 11th position. And I was so close on getting this prediction right, though, as at the end of the season officially, Fulham came 11th position in the league. The team I predicted to come 11th position at the Premier League at my videos I put out at the start of the season before now, I put Everton in 11th position in the league. I was only 2 places down on Everton though. Everton came 13th in the Premier League this season, but I put them in 11th position in the league, in that top half of the table, because I know that Everton might have a little bit harder because they've lost their stadium, Goodison Park. They've got a new stadium, and I felt that maybe they might struggle at sometimes at home this season. I think their away form might even help them a lot more, and I was right because their away form was good this season. They beat Man United 1-0 at Old Trafford. They beat Fulham 2-1 at Craven Cottage. They beat Villa at Villa Park 1-0. And even beating Nottingham Forest 2-0 away from home. And their away form all season has been absolutely bloody good. And they had some couple good wins at home as well. Don't forget about that. They beaten Burnley 2-0. They beat Chelsea famously 3-0 at their new stadium as well. And they had some good forms as well at home also this season. And David Moyes, credit to him. I think he's done a remarkable job for Everton. Despite them, not being the team to be anywhere in the top half of the table that anyone would predict them to be. I thought a lot of fans will probably predict that Everton's going to be in big trouble because they've lost Goodison Park. They've got this new ground in. Maybe there might be a little bit of problems maybe on the field, maybe to be anywhere in a relegation dogfight. But I knew that David Moyes was a crucial, vital manager to be the manager for Everton to keep them in the league. And they have done that nicely in 13th place in the league this season. But bear in mind, their away form's been very, very good this season. Very, very good. And even credit to Jordan Pickford, made some great saves for Everton in real vital moments for them. Even Barry as well. Good striker. He even helped Arsenal to go and win the Premier League for us when they drew 3-3 to Man City at home this season. And credit to him. And also credit to a few other players as well. Iliman Ndiaye as well. Good attacking player for the Everton team. He's been really, really good this season as well. So they've got some very good players in their team. A core of players really helped them all season as well to be in a safe position anyway. So, and credit for them. And also credit for David Moyes as well. But I might have got this prediction wrong though, only by 2 places down. But at the same time, I'm happy about it because I expected Everton to be anywhere in these sort of positions anyway at the end of the season. But they have came 13th, however, in this reaction to my Premier League predictions of this season. And the team I predicted to come 10th in my predictions at the start of the season, I put Bournemouth in 10th place in the league. Originally, this season, better than that. Better than 10th position. They've had a very good season, despite things like transfers, selling 5 of their best defenders to bigger clubs during the summer transfer window from last season. And despite losing Semenyo, their key talisman, during January's transfer window to Man City, I felt that Bournemouth might be a little bit shaky at times they had during the season, but done well though. Bournemouth, back-to-back wins. They haven't lost a game in the league since Arsenal. They lost 3-2 to Arsenal at home way back in January. And since then, Bournemouth have had some back-to-back wins, back-to-back draws. Every game since then, they picked up points. Despite a draw, despite a win, they've done absolutely remarkably well and even helped us to go and win the Premier League titles. Magnificent. They drew 1-1 to Man City at Vitality Stadium at the end of the season to have us to go win our first ever Premier League trophy for the first time since 2004, since the Invincibles season. And they did that way back, obviously, a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, they had some very good results they've had during the second half of the season. I think the first half of the season, Bournemouth were drifting down the table slightly. They were actually second at one point. And then they dropped down to 15th in the league. And then all of a sudden, light bulbs switched in January. And they picked up back-to-back victories from all the way from January all the way till now. Points after points after points. And now they're up to 6th. and then they've got European football now for next season to play with now. Next season European football is massive. Massive achievement for Andoni Areola. I know he's leaving and he's going to join Liverpool as their manager, their permanent manager now. So we know that it's going to be a different coach in charge now as a Bournemouth manager for next season, however. But he's done a very good job. Really carried Bournemouth and pushed them really punched them above their weight in that Europa League place is remarkable for little Bournemouth. And they're going to enjoy it. They're going to next season to play in European football in the Europa League. And I thought 10th position at the start of the season was actually reasonable for Bournemouth, though. I thought that Bournemouth were okay still to be in a top 10 finish, because if Andoni Areola was manager and he's done great for Bournemouth in the last couple of seasons, I felt that he will do a good job this season despite losing 5 defenders in the transfer window. I feel there'll still be enough for them to be safe, or be enough for them to be in a top 10 finish, because they're a very good club. They are well-run football club, Bournemouth, and I never expect them to be anywhere down below 10th position anyway. So, but they did one step better though from my prediction. They came 6th in the league, and that's a big achievement. At one point, we all thought Bournemouth might even qualify for the UEFA Champions League, however, because Villa won the Europa League. If Villa come 5th, that means 6th position will be open to a Champions League position, and it could have been, Bournemouth's it could have been in this period, but it wasn't though. Europa League will be okay for them, I think, and they're going to enjoy it nicely next season. But yeah, it all came down to a 6th position place for Bournemouth at the end of this season. And the team I predicted in 9th place at the start of the season, I put Brighton. It was a very good position though, I predicted them, because Brighton had one position up in terms of where they came this season. They came 8th, only one position up from I actually put them at the start of the season though. But Brighton, however, got European football again for the second time in their history. Conference League football next campaign. And Brighton, they've had a little bit of a sticky parts during the season though. During the halfway of the season, they've lost, drawn, and then they picked up some good form during the halfway of the season, the second half of the season, by beating Brentford, beating Forest, beating Liverpool 2-1, beating Chelsea 3-0 at home, and they've had enough goal difference, more compared to Brentford, who came below them in 9th place, was enough for Brighton, despite them losing to Manchester United 3-0 in the last game of the season though. It was enough for them to be mathematically able to qualify for a European place, and a great achievement for Thomas Herzog, and may even have a chance on doing the exact same thing like Palace did this season, go in this European competition and win it, because the Conference League's the most easiest competitions for most English teams, because due to our financial muscle and the Premier League muscle we've got in our system, in our leagues, might even, it's more of an advantage compared to the teams around Europe. So this might help Brighton a little bit to go and play European football once again, and maybe a chance on qualifying into a chance on Europa League football for the following season if they can win the Conference League from this season coming up. So this is a very, very important time for Brighton though. In their club's history, 2 times they've qualified for European football, and we wish them the best of luck for next season, how they'll do in the Conference League for the next campaign. But yeah, great season for Brighton. It didn't make sense for me to put them in 9th position, but they came 8th instead. And what a season for Brighton so far for the end of this campaign. The team I predicted to finish 8th place at the start of the season, I put Villa in 8th place. But they did a lot better, extremely better from 8th position, because they came 4th in the league. 4th place in the Premier League table, because it was a very good result in terms of the Europa League final. Did very well to beat Freiburg. And even that's really good for Villa. Their first ever European trophy since 1982. And Villa's start of the season in the Premier League was a little bit poor for them, a little bit. They had a very tricky start. You know, they were in the bottom three, they were within 5 games into the season. But then they played Fulham and they had some back-to-back wins since then. And Villa really blasted up the table from being poor at the start of the campaign, but blasted all the way into the top 4 into the Premier League for this season. And it's a very, 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 very good achievement for Unai Emery, though. And I know Emery had a lot of focusness on the Europa League, a lot more to prioritise on than the Premier League. But in 2 competitions, the Premier League and also the Europa League, they were really, really good, they were. And I thought maybe Unai Emery might not do as good in the league, though, because that's why I put Villa in 8th position in the league, because they got Europa League football to worry about. And I felt, when we predicted all the predictions at the start of the season, I thought Villa might go win the Europa League. They were hot favourites to go all the way and win the Europa League, I felt, from way back in August time. And I was right. And I predicted them very perfectly right in a Europa League win during this season. That's why I put Villa to not do as great in the league. But in the league, done extremely well, even further than 8th position, though. And a hats off achievement for Unai Emery, and hats off achievement also for the whole of the Aston Villa team. And they did very, very well to get themselves into that top 4. And then they'll be playing themselves next season in the UEFA Champions League. So at the end of my reaction to Villa, they came 4th in the league. I placed Newcastle United in the top 7 of the Premier League on my predictions for this season, but unfortunately they didn't come 7th position in the league. They came 12th in the league instead. And well, Newcastle, they've had a very okay run in the UEFA Champions League. They qualified in the league phases into the knockout playoffs to go to Karabag, and they beat Karabag on aggregate by 9-3 on aggregate. They played Barcelona in the round of 16, and Barcelona actually thrashed them 8-3 on aggregate to send them out of the Champions League at Nou Camp way back in March. But also Sunderland, their rivals, who got promoted from the Championship to the Premier League. Newcastle expected at the start of the season, even I expected that as well, they might get an easy 6-pointer over Sunderland home and away. But that was denied, because Sunderland did the exact same thing vice versa to Newcastle and defeated Newcastle home and away in the Premier League this season. No big shock though for Sunderland to go to St James's Park Stadium and beat them 2-1 was massive. And even Sunderland did very well by beating Newcastle at the Stadium of Light way back in December time, when Nick Voldemade scored an own goal for Newcastle to give Sunderland that victory at the time. But at the same time, they did lose Alexander Isak from last season, though, to Liverpool. And they sold him to Liverpool. They could not find any top striker to replace Alexander Isak. Obviously, Anthony Gordon was a player they relied on the most as well to score the goals. Also, Wissa, they signed from Brentford. And maybe Alanga as well had good moments in the season. Also, Nick Voldemade, also a striker they signed from Werder Bremen during the transfer window from this season. Well, the start of the summer of this campaign. He had a very good start into his run at Newcastle. Maybe hasn't scored many goals or enough goals. He was out injured a few times, and he's been on the bench a few times during this season, though. But at this season, this campaign was not very good for them, and they came 12th in the league, and they could not get any European football whatsoever for this campaign. And maybe the striking issue might be an issue for Newcastle, why they could not competed and got into those top 6 or top 7. And even the Champions League also distracted them as well, even playing in that competition also. Due to the squad they've got, I think it was really, really hard for Newcastle to compete in the Champions League at the same time, let alone try and compete in the Premier League. And that's why Newcastle came 12th in the Premiership table during this season. I placed Manchester United to come 6th in the Premier League in my predictions originally, at the start of the season, but they came third this season in this whole entire campaign. Very good season. The second half of the season for Manchester United, however, in the second half of the season was good. First half of the season was okay under Ruben Amorim. Did very, very well by beating Liverpool 2-1 at Anfield, beat Chelsea 2-1 at home. They've had some good results under Ruben Amorim, actually. I thought they might have created something with Ruben, because Ruben Amorim was actually manager of the month. He was at one point around December time after a few good results. And then all of a sudden around the end of December, they drew 1-1 to Wolves. They drew 1-1 to their rivals Leeds United. And then the writing was on the wall for Ruben Amorim to get sacked in January. And then Michael Carrick took over as their interim manager until the end of the season. And then he really changed the fortunes at Manchester United, obviously. Beaten Man City 2-0. Beating Arsenal 3-2 away from home. It was a big result away from home. Beating our team Arsenal away from home was massive for Manchester United. However, they beaten Fulham, they beaten Spurs, they drawn to West Ham, they beaten Everton, they beaten Palace, and then they lost is Michael Carrick's first game in charge as manager for United. He lost to Newcastle, a good unbeaten run all the way till March time, and then Newcastle beat them 2-1. And then they lost to Leeds. It was a bit disappointing for Michael Carrick as well to lose that game. But apart from that, this season has been magnificently great as well. And even beating Liverpool 3-2 at Old Trafford to secure Champions League football for the first time in 3 or 2 years now. They have not played in Champions League football now for 2 years. And then Michael Carrick got them to qualify in third position in the league at the end of the season. And I think that there's a difference in Man United, however, now compared to before. I can see that Carrick's allowing the team to express themselves on the pitch a little bit more, give them a little bit of freedom as well. I've seen that with Man United, however, during these games from the second half of the season when he took over. I see the freedom on the playing and the style of football that Carrick's bringing to the team. And I've seen that a lot about them in this campaign. And I'll be very, very happy. I'm very happy for them to be in third position, though. And I think next season they might kick on. I think they might do. I think with Man United next season, though, if they can invest a little bit more money on a few players they can get in the summer transfer window, they might have enough to try and strengthen themselves, to try and compete in the top 2 or maybe the top 3 in the Premier League for next season, though. But yeah, great ending for Man United, of course, in the second half of the season, however, to guarantee to qualify for the Champions League positions. And that's why it was a great season for them to come third in the league. And that's where they came at the end of the campaign, third place for the Red Devils of Manchester at the end of this season. And now we move on to 5th place that I predicted at the start of the season. I put Spurs in 5th place, but Spurs came almost relegated at the end of this campaign. They're almost at the skin of their teeth. They survived in the last game of the season. I never, ever, even though I was an Arsenal fan, expected Tottenham to drop down all the way from 5th position I predicted at the start of the season to come 17th for the second season in a row. Was a big blow, I think, for Spurs. Big disappointment, because last season they won the Europa League and even they came in 17th position last campaign. The difference from last season, they're only at least 13 points clear from Leicester to be safe anyway. So, but this season, they're only 2 points safe from West Ham United, and they're almost got relegated to play in the Championship. This has been the worst season in Tottenham ever. Witness Tottenham ever. I've always seen Tottenham be maybe in the top 6, top 4, top 3. In the last, since I've watched football, I've seen Tottenham being around those positions, the top 3, the top 4, the top 8, the top 7, but nothing worse than that. I know they were worse the season before that in when they won the Europa League. They came 17th in that season, but this was probably the worst ones because they had no trophies to back themselves up this season, and they almost only on 2 points. Take that to the last game of the season to find out if they're safe enough to survive West Ham. And they did beat Everton 1-0 at their stadium, though. But they've had a very shocking season. They sacked Thomas Frank in February after losing to Newcastle. Then Igor Tudor took over from Thomas Frank. He was poor, absolutely poor. And I think if Igor Tudor was still manager after when he was originally sacked way back in the start of April, I think they would have been relegated, Tottenham. I think Spurs would have been down in the Championship if he was still in charge from after the Sunderland, after the Forest defeat. I think they would have been relegated, I think, personally, if they kept in from that Forest defeat. And they did sack Igor Tudor, and they bring in Roberto De Zerbi, and he's really done all right, to be fair, for Tottenham. I know that he came in a little bit too late, but at the same time, he's probably gave a lot of players a lot of belief in the team and the squad to go and win these games. They've beaten Wolves away from home, they've beaten Villa away from home, and they've beaten Everton at home. Their first home win since Brentford in December. That's long. And even they have not beaten any teams since Palace since December the 28th. And then since the December the 28th, every match there was drawing, losing, losing, 5 games in the trot, then drawing to Liverpool, and then losing to Forest, losing to Sunderland. And I think, and then since that time, I thought maybe this could be the end for Spurs. But at the same time, Tottenham had a little bit enough about them to go and be safe anyway. So at the last game of the season, though, and it's probably the worst predictions I ever predicted any team in my predictions ever have Tottenham, a team we expect them to be anywhere in the top 6 or in the top 7, and to be finishing near the relegation zone was a big shock for everybody, I think, personally, in football. And they were very lucky to survive it, I think. They could have gone down, I think, if Igor Tudor was still in charge. I think they would have probably got relegated. I think West Ham will be safe by now. But lucky Spurs, they're safe. They came 17th in the league. And that is all I've got to say about Tottenham in my reaction to them this season. And now I predicted Man City to come 4th in the Premier League at the start of the season. I only thought that because I think that with Pep Guardiola, there was talks about him getting the sack. I felt that at the time. I felt that Man City, I think he's lost that Man City success. I think he lost it. I felt he had Pep Guardiola. Even though he's been 10 years in charge as manager for Man City, I felt that he's lost that awe in that Man City team. And that's why I felt that Man City will come 4th in the league. But they took it right down to the end of the season. They were really battling us to try and win the league against us this season. And I felt at times when we lost to Bournemouth 2-1, I thought that was it. I thought our season was going to be over completely when we lost 2-1 to Bournemouth at the Emirates. And I thought Man City was going to go and win the league this season now, I think. And I thought for one moment they could have done it in certain parts at the end of the season. But when they drew 3-3 to Everton, and then we beat West Ham, I think that was over from that time then, when we won the game 1-0 to West Ham. And then we got at least, 5 points clear, 6 points clear from Man City to go win the Premier League title. And yeah, I felt that they did take it down to the wire, but I think they've had sometimes in games they've actually picked up a few draws, and like West Ham drawing to them, drawing to Everton, for example, as well. If you can't draw loads of games in, that's what happens. If you're competing at the top of the table and you're winning every game and even losing less games, I think draws do really matter nowadays, because footballing now, everybody can compete against each other now in the Premier League. It's ridiculous. And if you draw more than probably 7 games, maybe, then that won't be you winning the league this season. If you're second and you've done well all season, though, to do everything right, 7 draws ain't enough, because because one team better than you might get enough wins and lesser draws compared to you, and they might get better points compared to you in the league. And that's what Arsenal did this season. We matched their draws during this campaign. That's what we won the league by. We won the league by the most draws they had compared to us. 9 draws to Man City and 7 draws to us. That really helped us, the stats, for us to go and win ourselves our first Premier League trophy after 22 years. And I think that this season for them, they really tried to take it to us at the end of the season, but it was not enough for them to win the league though. And now Pep's leaving now at the end of the season now. He's gone now, he's leaving. And now I think is Enzo Maresca is taking over from Pep Guardiola. And he's the new manager now going into the new season for Manchester City though. Will that success continue under Enzo Maresca? I don't know exactly. But I did feel that Pep Guardiola was coming to come down to an end some point. And that's why I put them in 4th position at the start of the season though. I thought Pep's aura as manager for Man City might have been too much for him maybe teams around him might have found him out quite quickly, and I think they found him out quite quickly. Arteta has especially, and that's why he won the Premier League title this campaign. Now he's leaving now after 10 years in charge, and the best of luck to him though. He's won 20 trophies in 10 years as manager for Man City. It was a real great achievement for him, for Pep Guardiola to do that as the Man City's head coach. But yeah, big ending for them to come second in the league. In my prediction, I put them in 4th position at the start of the season, but they came 2 places up in second place, in second position rather than 4th position. So I got that one wrong by 2 places up. So at the end of the season, Man City came second at the end of this campaign. Right, we go now to 3rd position. I predicted at the start of the season. I put in 3rd place Chelsea, because I felt Chelsea were under Enzo Maresca. You know, they won the FIFA Club World Cup in the summer. They've spent quite a lot of money they've spent on players in their transfer window as well during the summer as well, to try and get the best team out of them during this campaign going into this season. But this has been the worst season for Chelsea, because Enzo Maresca was resigned in January. He resigned. He didn't leave. He wasn't sacked. He resigned as manager for Chelsea. And then they took in Liam Rosenior, a guy who was manager for Strasbourg. And he didn't do much for Chelsea within the 4 months in charge. They went backwards under Liam Rosenior. Went backwards. Didn't go forwards though. He went backwards. The only good thing about Liam Rosenior has done for Chelsea is have a good cup run to the FA Cup final, and that's the only thing he's ever done as manager for Chelsea. But apart from that, he hasn't picked up any good results at home. You know, losing at home, especially losing to Arsenal was expected of them. Losing at home to Newcastle, losing to Everton was right on the wall for Liam Rosenior. Losing 3-0 to Man City. Losing 1-0 to United, losing 3-0 to Brighton, back-to-back defeats at the end of the season. It was right on the wall for Liam Rosenior to be sacked anyway. So, and then they had this caretaker boss in charge until that game after Brighton, until the end of the season. He did take them to the finals of the FA Cup though, McFarlane for Chelsea. They did lose 1-0 though in that FA Cup final, and also unfortunately Chelsea will not be playing any European football whatsoever for the next campaign though. Chelsea got no European football to play for. All they've got to focus on now is the league, the FA Cup and the League Cup to play for now for next season. Very poor season for Chelsea though, and they've got a lot of investment they've got to do now in the summer, of course, and even bringing in Xabi Alonso. There's talks about him taking over the job now from Liam Rosenior as their permanent manager. I think that's a good shout, to be fair, having Xabi Alonso in charge, because he did very well by winning Leverkusen, the Bundesliga, in 2023. Didn't do great at Real Madrid though. He's manager at Real Madrid, didn't do as great there. And I know that also Cole Palmer for Chelsea was not really fit enough to play a few games also. And that's why he wasn't even picked in the England squad for the World Cup as well. Was a big shock for Cole Palmer. Not really been match fit in games also affected Chelsea this season. But Chelsea this season came at least up to 10th position in the league. 10th place, where I actually predicted at the start of the season, I put them in 3rd position. But 10th position was their position at this ending of this season. Very poor at the end of the season for Chelsea though, not to get any European football and no FA Cup win as well. And they'll have next season now playing no European football, and maybe Xabi Alonso can change the fortunes at Chelsea, as Chelsea came 10th in the league this season. The team I put in 2nd position in the Premier League, and also the team I put in top of the league as well, the two teams that I'm reacting to Liverpool and also Arsenal. We'll talk about Arsenal a little bit later, though. We'll talk about Liverpool first, though. I put Liverpool in second position in the Premier League, second place in this campaign in my predictions at the start of the season, but they've gone backwards, Liverpool, backwards. They're not really competed at all with Arsenal or Man City this season, though. They've been very, very poor at times, not really picking up any momentum in a few games. And they've had moments of won matches and they've done well to qualify for the UEFA Champions League. But also there's a lot of things happen with Mo Salah, argument with Arne Slot. There's a bit of conflict between Mo Salah and Slot and the backroom staff. And, you know, he's now leaving now at the end of the season now, Mo Salah. And there was a lot of bit of frustrations behind the scenes for Liverpool, though, in Slot's second season in charge as manager for Liverpool team. Did lose 2-1 at home to Man City, lost 3-2 to Bournemouth, lost 2-1 to Wolves, lost 2-1 to Brighton, lost 3-2 away from home to Manchester United, and even lost to Man United as well way back in October time at home to Man United as well. A big rivalry as well. They lost to them as well at that time as well. And they did lose 4-2 to Aston Villa. And then they dropped down to 5th place in the league. Luckily, however, 5 teams can qualify for the Champions League because Arsenal got to the semi-finals of the Champions League against Atletico Madrid. That's why 4th position was now extra team can go now to make it 5 teams now to qualify for the UEFA Champions League, and Liverpool were lucky enough to come 5th in the league instead. And now Slot's now been sacked as now manager for Liverpool on the day when we play in the Champions League final against PSG. And that's a big sacking for Slot, though. I thought, in my opinion, though, that they should have kept Slot because he kept them in the Champions League for another season, though, back to back, and also won the Premier League the year before that, though. And then to sack Slot was pretty big statement for Liverpool, though. Big statement for them. They don't want to be anywhere worse in 5th position, despite them qualifying for the Champions League or even not. It's still not a good position for Liverpool to be at, though. Even though I feel that they should have given him a bit of time, though, to give him another season, though, and see what he can do. But ruthless sacking, though, for and brutal for Liverpool to do that, to sack Slot, who gave you the Premier League trophy and also gave you to qualify for the Champions League back-to-back. But they want to go for a real compete now for a Premier League trophy. That's what they want to go for, a Premier League trophy, and also compete in Europe in the UEFA Champions League as well. And Slot didn't do that this season either, though, because he did lose in the UEFA Champions League to PSG in the quarterfinals, and that was a big blow for them. But that was also in the past, and that's all why Liverpool decided to depart ways of Arne Slot. And even there's a worse season for them, I think, in terms of their position in the league, though. Only 3 places down to 5th place Liverpool came down to at the end of the season's table, looks like. But at the start of the season, though, I put them in 2nd place to thought that they might compete with Arsenal and compete with the Premier League title. Maybe I felt that Liverpool might come up short a little bit from winning the Premier League title again back-to-back. But at the same time, though, I did feel that Liverpool were having that moment. They've still got that core players still from Klopp's days still there. And now they've lost a few players now. You know, Salah's leaving. He's definitely going now in this transfer. You know, Trent Alexander-Arnold was left from last season to Real Madrid. There's a lot of players from the Klopp days all left Liverpool now. And I think that Liverpool are going backwards a little bit now. Maybe they get a right appointment in as manager for Liverpool. They might go back up again to try and compete with us and compete with Man City maybe for the Premier League title, though. But at the end of the season, no, they came 5th as the table shows. They came 5th place in the league. What a lovely season for Arsenal. 22 years. We've been waiting for this moment now for 22 years. Every year we come second. But now, finally, we won ourselves the Premier League trophy. It feels weird, though, seeing my team win a Premiership trophy. Like, it's mad though, because I felt during this season though, I felt that we had a very good run of results at the start of the season though. I think we did lose obviously badly to Villa. Man United was a bit poor from us at home, and also losing to Villa away from home as well. Losing at home to Bournemouth was a big blow for us. I put a video out on my TikTok page as well at the time, yeah, that congratulations to Manchester City, you are Premier League champions for another season though. I felt that at that time in April. I felt our league season will crumble after Bournemouth. But hope was in our favour though, because Man City dropped points to Everton. Dropped points to Everton and dropped points to Bournemouth. And that's why we kept ourselves believing after losing to Man City way back from April. We lost 2-1 at the Etihad Stadium. And then we kept believing even further to win all our matches. And then Man City all of a sudden dropped points twice after they beat us 2-1 from April. And that's why we won the league, because we were very resilient enough and very consistent enough in our results to win every game, from losing to Man City, beating Newcastle, all the way and beating Palace as well, and beating Burnley, beating Fulham, and getting that good run of results in our favour. And then we won the league at the end of the season. That's a big season for us to do that, by the way. The gap was at least 7 points between us and Man City in the league though. Big gap for us. And only 5 losses this season and 7 draws in the whole entire campaign, and also won 28 matches of this Premier League season though. I was a little bit nervous. I was off my seat a little bit when Arsenal were losing to Bournemouth and even to Man City though. I thought congratulations to Man City to become Champions League winners again. But we didn't bottle it. We actually went and gone all the way and kept ourselves believing even further, despite losing and having a bit of setbacks from losing to Bournemouth and Man City though. We kept ourselves believing, and now we won the Premier League title for the first time since 2004. And I got this prediction perfectly right. The only predictions I've got right this season is only Arsenal. All the other teams in the league here, I have not predicted any of them correctly. I might have got almost Everton right, I almost got Brighton right, I almost got those teams right, and even Palace almost right to predict them perfectly right in the exact position as I predicted them at the start of the season though. But I only got one team right from predicting them at the start of the season until the end of this season, and that is only Arsenal. Premier League champions, and I predict them perfectly right in first place. Arsenal, Premier League champions. And that's all we have time for here right now for my reaction to all the teams who finish in what position in this Premier League table, where I predicted them at the start of the season and where they finished at the end of the season. And that's all for that video right here, right now on my YouTube channel. If you want to see more of my content, go and give my YouTube channel TGI Football subscribe, and I'll be seeing you guys soon. I'll be predicting another prediction as well for next week for the World Cup predictions. I'll be doing that for next week, by the way. I'll be predicting all the 48 countries are in the World Cup for this month, and predict every round and every result and see where they're going to be by the end of the tournament. I'll be doing that by next week, by the way. But that'll be it, by the way, from all of us here on my Premier League reaction predictions of my reacting to the table. And I'll see you guys for next week for my World Cup predictions anyway. So thank you all for watching. Have a very good afternoon, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the summer. Peace out.